My name is Sarah and I live with my husband John and our son Michael. John and I have been married for 10 years. Our life used to be perfect. Beautiful home, lovely garden, and a strong family bond. John worked hard and he was a good husband and father. But 6 months ago, everything started to change. We hired Alex. He worked for us, helping with cleaning, maintaining the garden, and sometimes looking after Michael. At first, he seemed like a quiet, polite guy. Nothing special. Then, one evening, I came home late from work to find John still at the office. Michael was already asleep and Alex was in the kitchen reading a book. We started talking and Alex told me about his life. He had moved here for work, didn't have family nearby, and lived alone. We talked for hours that night and I didn't realize how much time had passed. After that conversation, things began to change between us. John went on a business trip for 3 days, leaving me, Michael, and Alex at home. The first night we had dinner together, and after Michael went to bed, I sat with Alex again. We laughed, talked, and I felt so at ease with him. That night, something unexpected happened. I kissed him. It was a quick kiss, but it felt like a lifetime. I pulled away immediately, telling him it was a mistake. He didn't say anything, just looked at me. I spent the whole night thinking about it, feeling guilty and confused. I loved John, and I still did, but something had changed inside me. I promised myself it would never happen again, but it did. A few days later, we kissed again. This time it wasn't a quick kiss. It was longer, more intense. And this time I didn't stop. I had no idea what to do. I felt terrified. I had a huge secret and I didn't know how to stop myself. I couldn't tell John. He would never forgive me. Every time I saw Alex, there was this undeniable pull. It felt like a fire inside me, something I couldn't control. Days passed, and life seemed normal on the outside. John returned from his trip, and we fell back into our routine. But I was keeping a secret. The guilt weighed heavily on me, and I couldn't stop thinking about Alex. Whenever I was with John or Michael, I felt like I was living a lie. Then, weeks later, I discovered something that would change everything. John had been hiding something from me too. He had been seeing someone else. I found messages on his phone. At first I was furious. How could he do this to me? But then I realized it was the same thing I had done. I was no better than him. We were both living a lie, keeping secrets from each other. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell John about Alex? Should I ask him about the woman he'd been seeing? Or should we both just keep pretending everything was fine? That night I made a decision. I couldn't live with the secret anymore. I had to tell John the truth, no matter how much it hurt him or how much it might end our marriage. After dinner, when Michael was asleep and Alex had gone home, I sat down with John. My hands were shaking. "John, I need to tell you something," I said, my voice trembling. He looked at me confused. "What is it?" he asked. I took a deep breath and said, "I've been seeing someone." Silence followed. He asked, "Who?" I told him everything. About Alex, the kiss, and how it happened more than once. I told him I was sorry and that I still loved him. I cried as I waited for his response. At first, John didn't say anything. He just stared at me, and I was afraid he would leave, afraid he would yell at me. Finally, he spoke. "I've been seeing someone too," he said. My heart stopped. I froze. I didn't know what to say. He continued. "It started a few months ago. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. I'm sorry." We both sat there in silence, shocked, hurt, and unsure of what to do next. But now at least everything was out in the open. No more secrets. We agreed to talk, really talk, about our marriage, our mistakes, and what we wanted moving forward. It wasn't easy, but we both still loved each other and wanted to try to fix things. The next day, we made some changes. We let Alex go. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. We also decided to go to marriage counselling. We knew it would take time, but we were both committed to making things work. Months passed, and slowly things got better. John and I spent more time together. We talked more and were honest with each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. After Alex left, the house felt strange, too quiet. Michael missed him and asked where Alex had gone. I told him Alex had found another job. It wasn't a complete lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. That was the hardest part, keeping the truth from Michael. John and I continued our counselling sessions once a week. It wasn't easy. We had to confront our mistakes and our feelings. The counsellor asked me why I kissed Alex, and I couldn't answer at first. I loved John, but I felt alone. He was always busy and I felt neglected. Alex made me feel seen, made me feel special. When I said that, John looked hurt, but it was the truth. Trust was hard to rebuild. After I told John about Alex, he didn't trust me the same way. He didn't say it, but I could feel it. When I came home late, he asked where I had been. If I was on my phone, he looked at me differently. I couldn't blame him. I didn't trust him completely either after I found out about Lisa. The counsellor said trust takes time, and we had to be patient. We both wanted things to go back to normal, but I knew it would take time. Every day I worked hard to show John that I was sorry and that I loved him. John did the same. He came home earlier, and we spent more time together as a family. We went to the park with Michael, watched movies at home. It wasn't perfect, but we were trying. One day I asked John about the woman he had been seeing. I hadn't asked before because I was afraid of what he might say. But now, I needed to know. After Michael went to bed, I asked, "Who was she?" John looked uncomfortable, but he told me her name was Lisa, and she worked at his office. A sharp pain hit my chest when he said her name, but I had to ask, "Do you still see her?" He quickly said, "No, it ended before you told me about Alex." That made me feel a little better, but it still hurt. He had been seeing someone else while I was at home, thinking everything was fine. But I had done the same thing. We sat in silence for a while, and then John spoke again. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I made a mistake. I love you. I don't want to lose you." "I love you too," I said, and I meant it. We both made mistakes, but we both wanted to fix things. Months passed, and we continued working on our marriage. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. We learned to communicate better, to be honest, and to trust each other again. 1 year later, John surprised me with a new wedding ring. "I want us to start over," he said, and that's what we did. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Today, things are better. We still have challenges, but we face them together. Our relationship isn't perfect, but it's ours. We've learned to appreciate each other more, and most importantly, we've learned to trust each other again, and that's enough. And so Sarah's story reminds us all that relationships aren't perfect. They take effort, mistakes, and sometimes a whole lot of courage to mend. Trust, once broken, can be rebuilt, but only with honesty, patience, and love. As Sarah and John slowly find their way back to each other, they prove that even the toughest challenges can be overcome when two people are truly committed to making it work. If you found this story touching, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Sarah and John's journey? And as always, hit the bell icon to get notified when we bring more real-life stories, packed with emotion and life lessons. Until next time, stay true, stay strong, and remember, trust takes time, but it's worth every second.